I am Nathalie Gordon, and I'm a board member for the APA Los Angeles chapter. And this is one of the first events I'm doing. It's an in conversation with these two superhumans, Ahmed Endante, formerly known as AB+DM. For everyone that's not sure what the APA, who the APA are, what we do, it's basically a non-profit organization for photographers all over America. Our mission is to educate, promote, and advocate for creators who work in the photographic and videographic mediums. I joined the APA when I first came to LA, and just as a way of creating that little photography community that I had back in the UK. And before COVID changed all of our lives, I really enjoyed attending as many of the in-person events as possible all of the events as I could that were in person. So the APA, we have like educational events and events like these where we're just having a conversation. What else? I mean, I can't remember what else, I'm so sorry. But anyway, so as one of the board members, I get to help further inspire other photographers in the community through events like the one we're hosting today. And our sponsor, Sammy's, is really, really, really appreciative. We're really appreciative of them because without them, a lot of these events wouldn't exist. So yeah, let's get started with Ahmed and Donté. How are you guys?
We're good. How about you?
Great.
I'm good. My hands are a bit sweaty.
Don't be nervous. We're good. We're easy to talk to.
I'm kind of nervous too.
Why are you nervous? I'm cool as a cucumber.
I'm pretty sure the more I do these, the more chilled out I'll be. But anyway, let me give you guys an intro. So formed in 2018, Ahmed, Barber and Donté Maurice merged their vision of stirring portraits, dynamic movement and colorful fashion images to create a beautiful world of their own. Their client roster includes celebrities such as Zendaya, oh my God, Kerry Washington, oh my God, Hudson, Cardi B, and all for well-known publications like InStyle, Billboard, Paper, Hollywood Reporter, Town and Country, Interview, Essence, and GQ. Wow, guys, how are you doing all this?
This is kind of insane here. You even read this.
Yeah, it is a lot. But what I'm dying to know is, how did you guys meet and kind of what sparked the connection, the desire to shoot together? Like, how did you know that you guys were stronger together than you were separately, like work-wise?
I feel like we kind of clicked instantly. It's kind of weird, actually. I feel like after one conversation, we just became attached at the hip really quick, and it's just like, I think we started just talking about photographers, like Marcus and Ines and how they like work so well together. And of course, us being two photographers, we just wanted to try it out and just kind of see what would happen. And we did, and we really enjoyed like the product that came out of it. And it was just like, oh, we should keep on trying this. And so we just kept on doing it. And then we just kind of went through like, okay, if we're gonna do this photo duo thing, then like we should have a name. So we went through like a whole bunch of like different names, and it was such terrible names. Some stuff we was like trying to put in different languages. It was a lot. Yeah. But somehow we got like.
Sorry, can you give me a bad name?
Before our first time releasing a photo shoot, we were gonna go by Reciproca. I don't know.
I forgot what that means.
It's like, Donté and I shoot from different perspectives, and that, Donté is more portrait based. He's more intimate. He likes to have things closer. I'm more like movement based. I'm super into fashion and things like that. So a lot of times I shoot wide and full body and stuff like that. And so we were like, okay, and working with each other, we are like the exact opposite of each other. And so we kept on looking up reverse and opposite, what those words mean in different languages. And I don't know where or how, like even what language Reciproca is. And we were like literally like this close. probably not. And we were like this close from being called that. And then I think like we were just like, are we overcomplicating it?
Yeah.
And we were like, yeah, this is overcomplicating it.
And then I think it just was a text message like ABDM, like it just kind of fit and it rolled off.
Yeah.
And of course, like we had people like our friends kind of saying like trying to pronounce the full word out. It was like Abadoom. It was like no.
Yeah, we had people calling us Abadoom for a few. He probably crazier stuff than that, but yeah, like we started working together based on just honestly the idea of assisting each other. You know, Donté was having a campaign, and I assisted him on that shoot. And literally, like he was saying, from that first day meeting each other, we had a little like meeting outside of the shoot before we went in. And on set, everybody thought we were like childhood friends, even brothers. On set that from that first day.
They were just like, how long have y'all known each other? And it was like just 2 days.
Yeah.
And they're just like, what?
Yeah.
It just kind of, it really just fit. And I think, you know, I'm just very happy and honored to even have somebody to work with, especially like, you know, just as you being a photographer as well, being on shoots, having somebody who was going through it with you to talk about it with, and just, it helps a lot. It's like having a sibling on set.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of like inspired us to keep going. It's that idea that we started to infuse each other into our projects in a way that felt just right. Like we would always be assisting each other. We would be mood boarding together, working, like bouncing ideas, the final photos, the retouching, all of that type of stuff. And so much so that it was just more so like we were even booking shoots around each other's schedule. Like, oh, are you free? So, okay, I can't have a shoot that time because I need you on set. So it kind of like stemmed from there. I think we kind of were wanting to go full force, or like kind of not abandon, but definitely focus and make ABDM a priority in 2019, but 2020 just felt right. It pushed us. We got an opportunity that kind of made it seem very like appropriate for us to kind of like really go full force with ABDM.
It was really like either you're gonna be all in or all out.
Yeah.
Because early on we're just like, you know, we have this ABDM thing, but then it's like we didn't want to let go of our solo work because we're like, we're like, it's coming from our thing. Like I don't know if we want to let this go. So even when we went to LA for the first time together, we would like visit agencies. We'll have like 3 portfolios with us, mine, his, and ABDM's, and everybody would be so confused. And we're just like, why do y'all have 3 portfolios if y'all like? So then after that, we're just like, all right, screw it. We're gonna put our solo work off and just go full force with like ABDM, just finding out like even what ABDM means, like what that looks like in the vision. And we're still like, even though we're on that path already, we're still like figuring out, and ABDM is still blooming.
Yeah.
As we go on.
It's still like.
Sorry, go on.
No, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask, what was that moment that made you realize that working together was better than working separately? You said that was an opportunity in 2020.
So the first shoot that kind of put things into more clearer perspective was our City Girls shoot with Billboard. Donté was actually the lead photographer, but I acted as like his digitech on that shoot. But it was like we worked so well in tandem with each other that it just felt right. And then after that opportunity, of course, we made a great connection with La Roche, who we're grateful to make that connection with him on that shoot. He reached out to Donté for an opportunity to shoot Zendaya for InStyle. And Donté immediately texted me like, you want to do this as ABDM? And I was like, of course, like, yes. So from that, literally from City Girls to InStyle, that moment for us was just like, we're all in here. Like we completely changed our websites, everything like that. And we were just like,
well, the funny part is, even with that situation, before I even consulted them out, which is probably bad, I already pitched it as ABDM. And so I was like, I'm sorry in advance. I don't know if this is something you even want to do, but here's what it is.
Here's what we do.
So he was like, I'm down. I'm like, okay, it's time to do
it. But before then, I think we were just waiting for a moment like that, waiting for a moment that could kind of not necessarily solidify, but give us that sign, so to speak, that this is the path that we should be taking. And it just felt right.
Yeah, it's almost like you guys just jumped off a cliff and hoped that the parachute would pop.
I mean, our trust, and what I love and appreciate is that we were close friends first. You know,
Right.
we developed a very close friendship in that I trust him. I know that he's not going to be like, I know how to communicate. We know how to work with one another. I know how he shoots, he knows how I shoot. So it's like, it's a certain fundamental and foundational understanding that we have of each other that just made it easy as well. It wasn't like something new. It just felt like, oh, we're just gonna put a name on this. It's already what we've been doing.
So do you guys, when you're on set, is it a case of, depending on the shoot, one person shoots and the other assists, not assists, but you know, is there for the support, or is it you take turns on the same shoot to hold the camera?
We take turns on the same set and shooting. So when we first began AB+DM last year, it was more so like, oh, Donté's gonna do a lot of the beauty stuff, or if there's a look that Donté is super inspired by, he'll shoot it and I'll do the same. But now it's like we've actually blended a lot of our styles, blended a lot of the ways that we see stuff. So it really just, we feel it. Like sometimes clients and our team members be like, I didn't even see you all switch the camera. Like I didn't even realize there was a different person shooting. Sorry, my dog decided to have a argument. Excuse me, guys. Okay, wait. So yeah, they just want attention at this point. But yeah, so but on set we do switch off and shoot. We don't shoot simultaneously, as we generally, one of us does like kind of give some feedback, like, oh, let's switch the angle, or let's, like, we already got the shot, let's move to the next shot, things like that.
Okay, so you already have your digis and your assistants on set, and you guys are just collaborating together. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I've always, like, I obviously know who Mert and Marcus are, and I'm like, how do they do it? I literally can't imagine having to share my camera with someone. I'm like, no, it's my shoot.
Yeah, it's always fun because sometimes when we pass that camera off, it's like, oh wait, I never would have thought of shooting it that way. Or wait, like Donté may be standing in it from a different vantage point. So literally he won't move. I'll take the camera to him and he'll say like, oh, I just saw it differently from this vantage point. Things like that. So it becomes like very organic, super seamless in how we work together on set.
And it's really because we operate as one versus being two people. Yeah, that makes sense. So we kind of come together as one, so there isn't like that internal competition to compete to see who get the better shot, and then we like, you know, when it all goes up, I'm like, oh yeah, I shot that one.
That's the reason to say that.
Yeah, it's almost like a friend of mine back home, where like we operate as one person, like separately. We can't get through life or adult ourselves, and so we're calling each other up, and it's like, oh, okay, we become one human, like one fully functioning human. Which,
we definitely are there. We're definitely there.
We've had a question pop in, which I think fits in nicely. Was were you guys self-taught, or did you have any formal training, or did you guys assist before you started shooting and then working together?
So for me, I took like a film and document class my senior year of college. I was doing photography before that though, but I wanted to like learn the actual technical aspect of it, which I guess for me, it was like, okay, if I learn like the film aspects, it'll be easier to, you know, do the digital, and which it really was, to taught me to slow down a little bit more. And then I did assist under a photographer for a few months. Derek Lynn, so I assisted under him in Atlanta for a little bit. And then I think it just took a different direction, because I seen like where I kind of wanted I kind of see where my style was shifting, and I wanted to explore that more. So I decided to just like, you know, just start really studying the photographers like Alistair McClellan and Mario Testino and Avedon, and just that's where I kind of learned a lot of things from, like how they shoot their portraiture, you know, what light works best on which subjects, you know, the type of retouching that they're doing. Like I've studied a lot of those things from them.
Yeah, like Donté, I'm self-taught as well. I've never assisted. I've sat on a shoot before with Harold Daniels, who is another amazing photographer here. He was shooting someone that I worked with at the time. But other than that, I'm pretty self-taught and just kind of looking at behind the scenes that are available on YouTube or via documentaries and stuff like that. like Donté was saying, studying some of the people who kind of were big and had those like amazing shoots that could be used as references and stuff like that. Photography wasn't something that I initially thought was going to be a career. It was just a way for me to kind of express myself, so to speak. I'm an introvert, so I needed a way to try to speak to people. So that was just my way to do it.
It's so nice to hear, because I did go to university and I majored in film and photography, but my lecturer was like, "You're not going to be able to become a photographer, are you?" I was like, "Hell no. I don't understand f-stops. I don't understand the shutter speeds. I don't understand why the numbers don't go from 1 to 10. Like all of that technical stuff, like I just don't get it." And then fast forward to I think it was like 2003. I was like, let me pick up a camera again, because I really miss being in the darkroom and stuff. But all of what I know has been self-taught, just literally looking at all the pages of Vogue and Harper's Bazaar and checking the catchlight in people's eyes and looking at how they're doing, how they're posing. It's literally just looking at thousands and thousands of images and, you know, figuring it out. So it's really endearing to hear that you're self-taught. So can you talk us through your creative process? Like what inspires you? How and where do you draw inspiration? Can you show us like some of your work and like talk us through some of that?
So Nathalie told us to prepare a little infographic for you all, so I'm going to share it now. So, I mean, this is a very simplified version of what our creative process looks like, but it generally starts with like an assignment or a brief. And that brief is either, you know, it could be a campaign, it can be a simple editorial, it can be a magazine cover, but usually that we get an email from our agent most of the time, and it kind of is like, do you want to do it? And we have, it's kind of funny because we signed up for the job before knowing what we're doing. Like we don't know what the creative direction is or styling, even who we're shooting sometimes. It's like, do you want to work with this magazine or this client or anything like that? And we're just like, yeah, let's do it. And so that generally leads to a call with the client or magazine to kind of like intro into if they're thinking about something, or we get on the call and they're like, oh yeah, so what's your idea? Like right here, right now, off the cusp. And from there, based on how that calls go, we mood board. We're intense mood boarders.
Like we'll be on the call, the Pinterest would have already started and ready to go.
Yeah.
Which is like the pre-mood board to the
actual
real mood board.
Pre-gaming mood board style.
Yeah, we go through like 3 rounds of mood boarding to where it's like everything is on Pinterest first. We kind of section it off on there. And then we do like a preliminary mood board on Keynote, where it's just like, I just kind of throw a whole bunch of things in there. And then he like refines it by taking things out, putting them in like the perfect order and like kind of telling the story from there.
So like, because I actually went to school for biology and math, I have a very like methodological, I don't know how to say, I think very orderly. So a lot of times I kind of think about how someone who has no idea about what we're thinking about, how they could receive the story and receive the mood board. And so we kind of like finalize from there.
And then the wardrobe comes. And then once the wardrobe happens, then we kind of finalize like the final mood board. We start like preparing the fits with like the poses that we want to do. That way, like we like having references on set. We realize that that's what talent kind of, it helps them, especially when working with actors. Like they like to see what they're doing or what emotions they should emote, or like, you know, even like the inspiration, like they want to see those things at first hand because it helps them form their characters and all that stuff like that when it comes to shooting. So we kind of go, I guess, 4 rounds of it's sometimes even flowing on set. And what Donté is mentioning is that a lot of times we work with celebrities who are not models. Some of them are very uncomfortable with shooting. Sometimes they've, you know, even had bad experiences, who knows. But what we try to do is look at what they're being shot in, understand how that garment moves. We may look up runway shows, we may look up if that garment has been shot before, just so we can understand like, okay, this is a dress, so we won't have them kicking their legs up, like just simple stuff like that. Or even like studying like who they are as even actors, or even, you know, people on Instagram, you know, looking up, you know, what they would be comfortable doing, because you can kind of instantly see just from Instagram and like how they are like and how they act even in the movies or the shows, like how they'll respond on set and interviews and stuff like that. And so we tend to like just watch those. And I think even with the situation that we had with we just photographed Christian Serrato's for Elle, but we watched plenty of interviews, and you know, we seen that she does Rubik's cubes. So we bought a Rubik's cubes to prove the set, and while she was talking to us, she saw it like right in front of us while we were like reviewing photos. So it's like little stuff like that that kind of like make people more comfortable, especially when it comes to shooting, and they'll be more receptive to like the ideas and everything.
And I mean, a part of that mood boarding process is we sometimes order the shoot. So based on what we know, of course, a lot of times on set things shift with glam and with hair, with makeup, and you know, time. We try to order it based on what we think will be easiest to shoot. Let's say if we're on location, which 75% of our shoots up until recently were on location. We had to be very clear about like, this needs to be first based on where the sun will be. You know, if the shoot, we have to try to time the shoot to where when we are at high noon, we're taking lunch and not trying to shoot and battle with that. So like all of that type of stuff is still involved in our mood board, because we have to, what we call it a deck, where we kind of like organize our deck with the poses, what looks we think should be first and things like that. From there, like post-production it seems very simple, but it's not. After the shoot, we're tasked with the first thing is creating an edit, which is like a pared down version of the shoot with what we think are the best shots.
What we want the magazine to have and what we don't want them to have. And that kind of comes from, you know, of course, us talking with the talent, going through photos on set with them. Not many people do that, but we find out that helps everybody, like especially like if we like a shot and that they're on set, we can kind of talk them into like why we like that shot, and I'm like, okay, cool, that's fine.
And figure out why they don't, because sometimes it's a retouching thing that could lead way to why they're not, like they don't like the way the fabric is gathering or something like that.
And that leads to no surprises when the shoot actually comes out.
Yeah.
So it's like,
sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just curious, like when you're selecting your images, do you guys have to keep in mind as to what the article was about, or it's literally purely your decision and the talent's decision?
Well, most of the time, we don't even know what the article is about.
Yeah.
Like we can assume that it's obviously going to be about a project that's coming out, but most of the time, the article doesn't really relate to the actual photo story that's happening.
Okay.
Sometimes when it does, on that first call, we'll get a brief in terms of like, oh, this is purely about fashion, or oh, this is something that we need to be more emotive, or we want motion, things like that. We'll get those overarching things, but not necessarily like these shots have to be had. We'll of course know if certain shots are important or should be priority, but in terms of us having to shoot like in a box in that way where the article controls the story, it's more so the opposite. Like generally the shoot controls kind of how the story transforms and what happens in the interview, or they're just completely separate.
We've had a question come in asking about your lighting setups as part of like your mood boarding and like pre-production. Do you know how much are you modifying or tweaking your lights on set, and like how much do you know? Do you run through your lighting setups beforehand?
Yeah, so we so because we're self-taught, where are you trying to go?
I don't know.
Because we're self-taught, we have we both have a general understanding of gear, in the sense that we can have a reference and then write down just a rough draft of what we think should be on set. Now, a lot of times we trust our first assistants in a way where we say like, here's the kind of like first draft. Let us know if you think that this should be moved around, or, you know, what's the best ways, like what modifiers are actually better than what we've chosen and things like that. Sometimes we over order, sometimes we under order and underestimate, you know, the amount of gear that we need to make things stable. Like one of our shoots, actually I can go to this one. This shoot was like very funny in that we knew the lighting, we knew everything, but we didn't consider weather. Like we didn't consider weather at all.
The heat,
the
space,
nothing.
Because like you know, you're looking at everything and like the space may not be as big as you think it is. So you gotta find ways to kind of minimize what you have, and then you gotta like there's so much to take into account when putting together these projects. Yeah,
I mean, for example, with this shoot, we shot it in Louisiana. It was our first time shooting in Louisiana. We've never been to New Orleans where we shot it. We selected the location based on just visually what we were drawn to. We weren't privy to any type of square footage or anything like that. So when we got there, what we thought was this expansive backyard was a small front yard with half of it being a pool and the other half being like a very small section of like rock and gravel. And so then also that morning, we look up into the great sky and see a storm cloud literally like almost over top of the shoot.
No.
So then it starts raining while we're like shooting him, but we have him under the scrim, so it's like he's not getting wet. But then all of a sudden we look up and we see like the backdrop like slowly ripping.
It's like at the corners,
and so we're
wet and rip.
Yeah, so we're trying to like speed up the shots. Like, okay, y'all, we need to get this shot. You know, the client's on like, oh, we haven't got it yet, so we got to keep on going. So we're like, oh man, like if this thing like falls like a mess. But it ended up working out.
Yeah, it ended up working out. So, but in terms of lighting, what we wanted to kind of touch on here is that some clients have a particular lighting style that you have to kind of like, basically you add your own spin to, and that's what happened with Men's Health, and that they told us what they kind of generally wanted. We had to figure out how to make it happen within our world and outside. So they usually shoot some of these shots in studio and things like that, but we were literally in a front yard. We had to build like an outdoor studio. And, you know, this was one of our first shoots as a duo. And it was kind of like literally the next week we were flying to LA to shoot Zendaya. And it was just important for us after the shoot to understand that the first lighting reference and or the first way to get to that lighting reference is okay to have on set, but you got to have plan A, B, C, D, and E on set, because you never know what can happen with lighting.
It helps knowing lighting yourself as well, to kind of know, like, because it helps you judge like what looks right and what doesn't. And then if it doesn't look right, you have to be able to say, okay, this doesn't look right. Here's the reason why, and here's how we can fix it.
Yeah, and before us working with new assistants and stuff, especially early on, we didn't have a team in LA. So, you know, people were more so trying to figure out our style. You know, there's that good old saying of like, it's 100 ways to skin a cat, so to speak. It's just like, we can show someone a lighting reference and they can be like, oh, this is the best way to move forward. And then we can say, that's not the way we want to go about it. Or it just doesn't look right to us. So like we having to understand lighting in a way that we can communicate, like, you know, we need to add some feel here. We need to, you know, shift the key a little bit left or a little bit right. We're missing some catch lights in their eyes and stuff like that has been helpful for us. And, you know, even our assistants, they're like, it really helps that you all know gear and know equipment versus this.
I feel like, and I think that's where it's about studying. You know, when you study, like even just the OGs of photography, you learn what things are supposed to look like, or at least like a starting point, or like the fine touch finishes of like how the end product should come together.
Yeah, it's really like lighting is definitely something I absolutely love, but have never been taught. I just learn it myself. And it was actually my physics teacher that helped me with my lighting years ago.
Oh, wow.
It was like, well, light travels in a straight line. I was like, duh. If I put it here, it's gonna do this. If I put it here, it's gonna do this. And then literally that was the magic, and everything else is like bouncing and filling and softening and all that stuff. So yeah, it definitely helps to know like a little bit. And then, but the worst thing I find is when the client is like, oh no, we want it to look completely different, and then you don't have enough kit. How am I gonna make this work without like breaking down on set?
For sure.
Okay, so do you want to like take us through like some of your other shoots, how you put them together, how you work together, like did anything interesting happen on them?
Yeah, we'll go through some other ones. We kind of put something together. Oh, okay. So this was a fun shoot.
This was a surprise.
This was like, so in the mix of everything happening with Zendaya's shoot, Law called us and was like, hey, want to do a shoot with Kerry Washington? And we was like, of course. We didn't know that it was going to be remote. We didn't know that we were going to have to shoot this via Zoom.
Yeah, and so we kind of we freaked out. Like that was the first thing that we did. The second thing that we did was like pray.
Yeah.
Like, what we gonna do? And then
that's usually how it always goes. It's usually like, oh my God, what's happening? Then you have to pray.
Yeah. And so then I ended up contacting one of my friends, Alexandra Gabriel, who's a brilliant photographer as well. And then we remember seeing her doing these remote shoots. And I'm like, when you don't know, just ask. Yeah. And so we're like, so how did you do this? How did you do that? So she gave us like the lowdown. And we were like, okay, so we ended up having to do that whole process. So what we did was, of course, we can't be on set with this person. So because everybody kind of in a bubble, you have to work with the people that are in that bubble. And so that happened to be her assistant, Emily.
Yeah, and our only thing was that we wanted to not have blurry photos and or pixelated photos
Or
screen shots. And so like we were like, our main concern was like, how do we get a camera there so we can have high resolution images to at least play with.
Plus it's a September issue too, so we're like our debuts are going to be September issues, so we can't play any games.
Yeah, and so when we worked with her assistant, we were excited. We first were told that she has a camera. Now we had a meeting with her and she has like a point and shoot camera that was amazing. I mean, that we were like, okay, cool. But we're like, let's send her something that we're familiar with, that we can also kind of control and that can mirror from our end, because we're shooting this obvious, and
it would have her as a backup, so that like if that first camera doesn't work, then we'll have her so that she can be more familiar with.
Yeah. And so the next day we kind of use what is it called? It's basically Team Viewer. Team Viewer basically allows you to remote control someone's computer. And with that, we gave her an access to our Capture One, like got her a license and everything like that, downloaded Team Viewer and Capture One to her computer, and that we can tether. Yeah. And only thing she would have to do is point and shoot, really. We can control the camera, we can control the aperture, all of that type of stuff.
And we went through photo 101 the night before to kind of like get familiar with like how to change the lenses, and all those, how to just work it and put it on manual and all those things like that. So then it gets down to the actual shoot. And it's going great because Kerry is such an amazing person to work with. She was down with everything. It was via Zoom, so we're all just kind of like on face and just watching her do her thing. And so of course, we're looking at the weather from Atlanta, looking at LA, and the UV index is like 10 out of 10. There is barely any like shade there, and we're like, no crap. The iPad starts overheating.
Everything is it was like almost a communication nightmare, because we're on it like. Basically, you have to have one thing that we can see the set, so maybe we can direct posing. Then there's someone on a phone just to talk to, so we can connect with the assistant, but everything overheats. So like we're seeing shots come in via Capture One, they're blurry, or we're like, oh no, this is not the angle. Wardrobe's freaking out because they're not there. Like it was just all a lot.
So we're like, you gotta get lower. You gotta just, turn it around this way. Okay, and then we're like also like we're also scouting via phone while we're like on set. So it was definitely one for the books. I feel like we learned a lot, and we learned a lot. It helped us to get a little bit more familiar with this new style of remote shooting.
Yeah, it helped us understand what we needed to do, how we needed to prepare. We've had 3 remote shoots. Our last one being what we our last cover for Hollywood Reporter with Shaka, Charles, and Ryan Coogler. And that, like, even with that shoot, not many people can believe that we shot that shoot remotely in 3 different locations with 3 different people and had to match a whole lighting setup in 3 different types of locations. But it kind of helped us refine that process quite a bit.
Wow, that's just made me exhausted just listening to that whole story. Like the only remote shoots I've done are where the client is dialing in on Zoom and I'm sharing my screen and they can just see everything tethered in, and then I've got my other laptop talking to them. So working on the 2, and I was exhausted, but having to direct someone, tell them, okay, change the aperture, change the shutter speed, or lower the angle, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was quite intense, but like it was fun in that we could also instill some knowledge to someone else. Sorry, Donté is trying to do too much over here. It was fun in that we got to like also share some knowledge and give someone some inspiration. And also just know it's possible. You know, at that time, we didn't know what was to come with COVID. We didn't know if this was going to be how we worked, period, or not. And so we were just happy to see that this is actually something that's possible to produce what we consider high quality work. So it was very important for us to figure that out.
Have you considered working with video villages? I know like a few photographers are working with like really high-end setups where you have someone literally just positioning the camera and then there's a whole bunch of equipment, don't ask me what it is, and they're literally controlling the cameras from their laptop.
Yeah, we've seen that too. We don't know how to do all that.
Yeah, we're not that we're not that experienced with that. We didn't see some, like, I forget the photographer's name, but he's pretty much refined this to have like almost like a war room.
He shot Pat Mahomes for GQ.
And it literally looks like he's controlling like a rocket or something. Like he has like 17 screens and a projector, and I guess just a lot. But we're not that advanced.
I think Marcus did something like that with Pharrell for ID.
I think you're right. I think it was for ID. But yeah, I just get overwhelmed with, because I'm not technical in the slightest. I'm like, does it look good? Good.
Yeah.
And with all the extra gadgets and gizmos, I remember when I got my first digital camera, because I learned to shoot on film, I cried because there were too many buttons. I was just like, cool. So yeah, talk us through Zendaya. Absolutely love everything she does. And yeah, what was this like meeting her, shooting with her, the inspiration, like who decided the location? It just looks fantastic.
Thank you so much.
This is a big story, I feel like.
Yeah, like I would say like this story has so many layers to it because so much happened. What happened, so much was involved in our shoot, but it didn't all fell into place so magically. It was like one of those to where it was like at the end of the day, we were just like, what just happened? Like, I remember to kind of go skip to the end and come back, we shot the shoot and we had a flight out the next morning at like 6 a.m. And we were like driving to the airport like, whoa, what, like literally what just happened for InStyle. But similar to our creative process, it started with a call. We got on a call with the amazing team at InStyle, Laura Brown.
First, Law was like, oh, he had called and he was like, hey, do you want to do an editorial with Zendaya?
Oh yeah, he did downplay a little bit.
We're just like, yeah, like that's cool, like an editorial, that's fun, InStyle, yeah, let's do it. So we get on the call and they're like, yeah, it's for the cover and it's a September issue.
Yeah, I'm freaking out.
We're texting each other like, you know, we're keeping it still face on camera, just like, oh great. We're like texting each other, what?
Yeah.
And so then we're like, they're going through the idea, they're going through the wardrobe, we're doing all this. Everybody's like very excited, very happy. We're the new boys, nobody know who we are, nobody knows our work, nobody's seen our work. We're just like, you know, we're kind of nervous because they're like, we can't let anybody down. Like this is a pandemic shoot. This is like probably one of the new pandemic shoots that are coming out. So we're like, yo, we have to really, really kill this.
And it was amazing that, you know, this opportunity meant so much and that, you know, it was all people of color working on this set. And it was just like, we were all collaborating. It was a lot of young people and it was a lot of diverse in ages, you know, people from different backgrounds and stuff like that. So all of us just coming together in that way first was like really amazing. Law took a risk in even recommending us, and the team at InStyle took a risk in just saying, look, we trust Law, so we're going to go for it. On that first call, it was more so like a loose concept. The only thing that we knew is that we had to include blue sky. Like it was not much.
Yeah.
It was like not much other like creative notes in that we had to include blue sky, and we were going to shoot on this rooftop. At that time, we didn't know what the house looked like. We didn't know where we were shooting. It was just like sky, rooftop.
I remember we had made a mood board first, and Law was like, "No,
yeah,
don't say that."
We were overthinking. Yeah, we were like really overthinking, and we came up with like this it was a beautiful narrative. Like it was about movement and like, you know, Z as a person, her career and things like that. It was just like he was like, no, they didn't want that. They didn't ask you to do that. Scale it back. Give them what they asked.
Yeah.
And so
then they were just like, all right, y'all, here's like 25 houses, pick one. Yeah. And we're like, oh my gosh. So we're like looking through these homes, like what is going on? we've never shot in Malibu before, so we didn't know what to expect. Like we didn't know it was gonna be that windy as it was.
Oh, we'll get to that part.
It was a lot, but we finally we got it shrink down to the Denise house. Everybody liked the Denise house. I think they shot there before, and it was like
they didn't like the Denise house at first. We actually chose a different location. The location that we ended up with wasn't the preference of everyone. Like everyone was like, yeah, I don't know. But after we kind of like explained a little bit more like how we could make this location look a little different, it turned into like, okay, let's go with it. Like, let's go with this location. It has a lot of opportunities, a lot of different variations and nooks and crannies for us to shoot at. But so we kind of we're actually, things went kind of quiet. Like it was like we had that meeting in June. The shoot wasn't until like July. So we were driving back actually from the men's health shoot with Zion Williamson. We were traumatized and felt like we were not prepared. So we were like, look, we're gonna make this DEQ list. Is gonna be like literally we're ordering one of everything. We want two of everything. We want everything on set. Like, so we're just ordering.
We definitely maxed the budget.
Yeah, we didn't use half of it.
I don't even think it was half.
It was like a quarter. Like we used like a quarter of the equipment that we had, but we felt prepared, and that was important for us. We landed like the day before the shoot, and we scouted, and then scouting is basically like you just go to a particular location, and kind of scope out the places that you may want to shoot, figure out some angles and stuff, and so we really just scouted like so many different locations there and figure out here's just the possibilities, and everybody was like cool at that point. And then we met with Law that same day, was like looking at the wardrobe, and we were like kind of in shock, like wait a minute, we got like
shooting these pieces,
we got all these designer pieces and couture pieces and some stuff that we watched the runway shows from like Pierre Moss and Christopher John Rogers and stuff like that, like whoa, like we're actually about to shoot this tomorrow. So the next day comes, and it was like we were super like almost over prepared. We felt like we spent the morning testing and went through each location, set up our setups. But then
none of it meant
anything.
Yeah.
Like all of that got thrown out the window. Again, like Donté was saying, this is our first time shooting in Malibu. Something that we did not take into consideration is wind.
Or just like the fact that, the sun is not going to stay in the same position.
And so us testing in the morning was for not, like, it was like, it didn't matter. Like none of the shadow, what was in the shadow, a lot of stuff. But I think at that time, we were just excited.
Yeah.
Just like,
because what you do at 9 a.m. is not going to matter at 1. Like it's not.
Yeah.
So then then the shoot happened, and it went smoother than we expected. But there's also some moments to where we learned again not to use a scrim in Malibu.
Not to use a 12x12 scrim in high winds. That was just like we thought was stable, but it was just literally just a couple medium rollers with a few sandbags. It wasn't anything tied down, nothing like extra security. Actually, it did. So that's what we saw.
Yeah, so we were literally on a roof shooting, photographing her, and we literally look over, and it's like toppling over.
It topples over. It like almost looked like it's flying.
And like people had to like run full force and grab it. So we're photographing her. We have to play it cool while that's happening down there. And so then for some reason we're like, okay, we want to shoot this look on the ground. And so then for some reason we set up the 12 by scrim again. And like we're setting this up, like trying to contain it. We're like blowing away. Zendaya's like sitting there like
she's looking at us like, I'm gonna let you figure this out, but I don't think I'm gonna stand under
that. Yeah. And so then after the point, we're just like, cut it. We're cutting the scrim. Yeah. And that's how we got the shot in the middle and the bottom.
Yeah, that shot is actually a test shot that we love so much, and we to this day are just like, wow, that was like a test shot. And that was like the opening of the feature section of that issue for the September issue.
That is
so yeah.
No wind that's doing everything.
Yeah, he's throwing the skirt. Like he's throwing it. Yeah. And that's Law in the picture too. A lot of people
It is like he's part of the spread in terms of like the fashion.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, wow.
Yeah. And we were going over like just like what the story will be, like we have to. Everybody's like we got to keep them in there because it's perfect and it embodies even the era of pandemic that we was in, like with the mask and like how we all have to work, together, and it worked out perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, even with this shoot, we sat with Z after the shoot and picked, her top selects, and we kind of took her notes around what she kind of preferred, what things that she didn't prefer, what type of angles she preferred. Even if we didn't get through all of the shots, we kind of looked at what she liked, what she didn't like, and kind of took note of that. Yeah. And we had to get the magazine, our selects, that morning before we took off. And we had to do mock-ups and stuff. Like, we're pretty involved. A lot of people tell us like we do a lot, but we like to mock up the magazine cover if it's for a cover. We like to mock up the spread and everything. So
it just makes it a bit easier, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've seen in YouTube videos and watching some of the OGs work. Like, we've seen them do it on set, and we're like, we have the capability and the know how to do so. So it's like, why not use that tool to be able to do that and kind of see what things will look like, see what that cover will look like. You end up 8 times out of 10 getting the cover that you wanted because now they can see it.
It's tangible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we think of this as a catalyst for our career because after this came out, it was like almost like that stamp of approval that people were like, who are they? Because I had no idea what AB+DM is and or who they are. But we want that. Like, so many shoots after that, it was like, we just want you to do your thing that you did with Z.
Yeah, so big thank you to Law, InStyle, Laura.
Thank you for Laura. And InStyle is like that. The team at InStyle is super close to our heart. They're like family. Like, we work with them so many times. We have a group chat. We're so grateful for the many opportunities.
I love that. That is awesome.
So yeah, this shoot was something that gave us a lot of learning lessons, but it was also something to kind of truly catapult us into this industry in a way that was just, God ordained. And, we're super grateful for this opportunity.
Even our agency, just like putting things together, like the way they kind of helped us, we knew nothing. We knew nothing. They helped us really just kind of get a hang of this. Grab the bull by the horns.
Love you, Jose.
Love you.
Jose was the one I initially spoke to. I was like, by any chance, these guys, do you reckon they would come onto this webinar with me? And he was just like, yes, absolutely. So I'm not sure if you put it in this deck, but you're was it for Billboard? You shot Cardi B.
It's here. Can
you talk me through that? Just because it looks so like the close-up image is so different to your fashion image, and I'm guessing that's all down to Donté being that close up, or am I?
Well, yeah, I mean, well, this, I think I shot the close up of this one, but I think first of all, this shoot came out of nowhere for us. It was something that just kind of birthed out of, like, I think someone on our team, Colin Carter, who's her stylist, he's familiar with Donté's work, he's familiar with my work, and he's wanted to work with us in general. And I think this opportunity just kind of like came about. Cardi was being honored as Woman of the Year, and we put here like coming full circle because this was like the first shoot that was released in 2020 for us, and it's also our last shoot. And that we shot for Billboard, the first and last shoot of 2020. It was kind of like crazy that was like our thing.
So January was City Girls, and we ended our last shoot with Cardi. So it was such a crazy moment. But this is one of the times when Cardi and Cardi's team had full control of what they wanted this shoot to be like, and so they came to us with the idea of wanting a really simple editorial shoot that could be iconic as well. And Colin had such amazing ideas when it came to the styling and the wardrobe, like even what he put together, the boards that he sent us, the drawings that he had crafted, and everything just kind of came together. We all worked together on like what the session looked like and everything. And on the day it just happened. We set the lighting up. She stood there. When the first shot happened, just the text, and everybody was just like, "Yep, all right, good. We're good to go."
Yeah, I mean, this one was actually one of those ones that it honestly was a super smooth shoot. It was definitely something to where you knew the shot when it came across the screen, like you knew this was the shot as soon as you shot it, and it was very much so like, we all like this. Okay, next look. It was not like we had to shoot along or anything like that. This was our first time working with Cardi, and Cardi was just down to try what we suggested.
She was a team player, and let me tell you, and even let's say with this first shot, a lot of people think it's Photoshop, and it's not. Like, she's literally standing on a stool in 10-inch heels. She is scared of heights. Like, heights is not her.
Terrified.
No way.
So so capturing this shot was just like the fact that she even did it. It took a minute to get there.
Yeah.
But once we got that shot, we were like, yo, this is it. And the fact that she was so willing to like go for it with it, and just she killed it. She killed it.
Same with statue. Like, it's just so bold and so prominent that she is like a statue, and it's just just amazing.
Yeah. And what's funny is that shot was so like planned and rigid. This shot on the right, the blue Balenciaga dress shot, is actually her joking around. Like, she started moving, the fans going and stuff, and she was like, I want to dance today. Like, she's talking about Debbie Allen and how, like, she just wants to act like she's in dance class.
So around this time, she had a show that I forgot which network it came on, but
I think it was a YouTube show.
It may have been, and she took a class with Debbie Allen, so she was like using the moves that she learned with Debbie Allen there. And so we're all like, we have her dress on the side. We're all like, as soon as they say count it down, we're just like flinging the dress.
And so, like, what's funny is this is another shot that she saw it across, like, she's still on set being shot, and she saw it and she was like, that's the shot. And she was like, that's the one I want. We kind of stopped. What's funny is this shot in the middle is like towards the end of the shoot, where we just kind of wanted to all calm down, and we know we needed a closer up shot, because we knew, in working with Billboard in the past, Donté had worked with them quite a few times, and they like close up beauty shots. So we wanted to cover all our bases there and make sure we had something like that. And of course, Colin chose all of the styling, and we just like, let's keep it simple. We definitely had some others where her eyes is open and she's looking at the camera, but we really loved the eyes closed.
Yeah, it's absolutely stunning. The makeup's beautiful. One of my internal questions, but I'm going to express it to you guys, is when you're working with celebrities, like you mentioned that Cardi had done a class with Debbie Allen, and that's how you got that shot. But how do you work with celebrities in terms of like getting them to pose in certain ways, or do you just let them do their own thing?
It's really just a mixture. It's a mixture of both. So what we usually like to do is, when we're shooting, we let them do their thing first. And so when we let them do their thing, you get to see how they move and like what works better for them, because they usually go to what they feel comfortable with. And so when they're doing that, you're kind of watching them, see how they move, see like what angles they favor, what side of their face they favor, if they like their arms, if they like their arms down. Then after that, when they begin to get into their poses, we kind of begin structuring it from there. And then if we see like they're like very comfortable with posing and down doing anything, then that's when we kind of bring out the references, like, hey, let's try this shot. And they'll just turn it into like their own thing. So then while they're shooting them, we get to look at the screen, see what's happening. And then we may say, hey, turn your head here, or lift your arm a little bit higher, or like, give us more drama, give us more of this, give us more of that. And that kind of helps. And so then it helps also having a screen, because they like seeing, what they're doing and making sure like they can trust you. So once they know that they can trust you, they're not worrying about the screen or whatever. Okay, cool. If you say we got it, I know for a fact that we got it and we out.
Yeah. So with that in mind, like, it's all about figuring out. It's a balance in that we have to figure out how to make them comfortable enough to not be worried about that the shots are just not good, because that's where that first look is very integral in that way, and that we have to set the tone for the entire shoot to make them feel like, one, whatever jitters, whatever uncomfortability, whatever like anxiety they have about being shot, period, no matter who it's for, who it's by, they don't like being shot. That's what happened here with like Tom.
Because really 98% of the time, they don't know who we are.
98.
So it's like, we have to make sure that, because like, if let's say if it was somebody else like Mauro Testino, they'll probably be like, okay, cool, like I trust that we got the shot. But if it's something that they're not really familiar with, like we really have to nail the first look the way it kind of eases the tension.
Yeah.
And so, and I think one of the great things about, just creating a comfortable set environment is, talking with the talent whenever you can get a chance.
Right.
And something that we pride ourselves with is music. Music on set is extremely important to us in creating a vibe, so to speak, that is relevant to what the person likes. They may hear a song that takes them out of the space of being into a shoot. And with this particular shoot, it was almost like no one even realized that we were shooting half the time. It was like we were dancing, we're singing songs, Tom is having fun, we're having fun. And, he's already just a nice person. He's a nice, genuine guy. But he's one who doesn't like to be shot per se. So us getting on set and making sure we create that environment was important. Us showing him references wasn't going to be like enough to make sure that it was also going to feel natural and normal. So it's all about a balance, like Donté was saying, and that we have to figure out like what's going to connect with our talent the best. Sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's me whispering to Donté, this is the reference that you need to be getting. This is the angle, versus even showing them like what they're supposed to be doing.
I mean, I think also a perk about just being two people is like sometimes one of us may click with the person, the other person may not click with them as well. So you just kind of like, okay,
this is my day.
This your person. So I'm gonna be behind the screen. Y'all do what y'all do.
Yeah.
Or maybe like, okay, Donté,
this your person.
And
I mean, it's not in that that it's just sometimes it depends on who starts that conversation first, who greets them first on set, and to where they just lock into that person. And so we, of course, those are all things that we have to, that helps us figure out how to pose and how to get the best shot, because sometimes we don't have a lot of time with who we're shooting, and we have to do what's best for the actual shoot.
Yeah, we've had a question come in asking, how do you manage the expectations of the client and the talent? Is it just a case of just making everyone feel comfortable, or is there something else that little tricks that you've got that you can share with us?
I think it's really about relationship. I mean, I most of the time the talent and the magazine are going to want two different things. And so it's up for us to kind of be that glue to kind of put everything together. And that's just like, talking with people, finding out like what they like, what they love about themselves. Most of the time it's about like how they look and how they want to be portrayed, and like, and it's like putting those pieces together to make like a great picture.
Yeah, I mean, it's all like, I think when I had mentioned earlier about prioritizing things, that's kind of like how we go into the shoots. We have a bare minimum of what we need to get for the shoot. And then we have like our best case scenario, our best wishes. And then sometimes we like to confirm that with the talent, because sometimes the client or magazine that we're shooting with hasn't communicated how many looks we're doing with the client, with the talent. And so if we go with the magazine, they're like, oh, we want 12 looks. And we speak to the client, the talent, they're like, I thought we were doing 2. Kind of like we gotta manage the expectations. Then time plays a lot into that. We've had shoots to where we shot for 8 hours, like Zendaya's shoot. That was an all-day thing. But it's others where we've had, like, I think it's in here, like this shoot, we had 30 minutes, I believe, 30 minutes to do 4 looks. Well, it's actually 6 looks, 45
minutes.
We had 30 minutes for this particular publication and 15 minutes for a second publication that was also featuring Stacey Abrams. But we had to really prioritize 10, like if 10 frames, it's like, that's all you got. Like, you gotta make it happen.
If you ain't got it then you might.
Sorry, go on.
No, yeah, I was just saying, what it does is it helps us also be more critical about what we actually want the story to look like too.
Right. It's funny you mentioned the whole 10 frame thing. One of the first celebrity I ever photographed was DMX. And
oh, wow.
I was there all day, nervous as hell, had never photographed a celebrity before, and didn't know what to expect. And after about 5 hours, he came out, and then his manager was like, "You've got 5 frames." I was like, 5 minutes? he's like, no, you got 5 frames. I was like, oh, okay. And all 5 of my frames was just the same pose. He didn't move. I tried to like get him to do something else. He was deadpan, just stood there for 5 frames. And I was like, I'm never shooting another celebrity ever again.
Yeah, I mean, we've been in situations where we had similar situations where it's like, you kind of got to work a little harder to make that connection with celebrities, and that they have a comfortability zone where this is their pose, this is their angle, this is how they like to be shot, and they'll be vocal with you about how they don't want to be shot.
And I feel like rightfully so. I mean, a lot of times, you know, when they have so many shoots that a lot of times it's a job. I'm coming here to do a job and I'm leaving. So the goal is to make it not seem like a job. The goal is to make it seem like we're all hanging out, taking pictures. Like friends love taking pictures with each other, but you bring your friend to a real photo shoot, they're gonna be like,
oh my God.
So like when you make everything the environment friendly, the environment very comfortable, they're just like, okay, cool. Like let's just have fun. Yeah, let's just have fun.
It's funny, the same goes for models as well. So all the fashion and beauty stuff I shoot, I'm trying to get like some cool, like quirky images from the girls, and I'm getting nothing. And then I'll see them in the makeup room on Instagram or on TikTok doing their thing. And I was like, okay, bring your phone to set, come on, because I would like to have some of that energy. But yeah, it's totally, I don't know why people just don't like being in front of the camera. I mean, saying that, I hate being in front of the camera. Yeah. It's my job to be behind it. So
yeah, I'm the same way. I joke on Instagram quite some time, all the time actually, and Donté makes me take photos of myself because 1, we often always need photos of ourselves, but 2, just so I break out of that a little bit and get more comfortable being photographed and or just taking pictures of myself. But I hate like loathe, like I do not like to be photographed. But
yeah, I do my own headshots because I'm like, I can't even get another photographer friend to shoot a headshot for me. I have to psych myself up and do it myself, and then it just looks weird anyway. Here, there. So we're coming up past an hour now. So was there anything else you wanted to share with us, or do you want to just jump into some Q&As?
Yeah, we can jump into questions. Yeah.
Okay. So let's have a look here. So some of these we have answered. Let's have a look. There are a few questions about retouching. Some people want to know who does your retouching? How important is it for photographers to be skilled at editing their own photos?
So fun fact, we edited the Zendaya shoot, that first shoot ourselves. In editing that photo shoot, we realized that we need to hire a retoucher.
The more work comes in, it's like there ain't no way.
Yeah, like you have we have like just two shoots doing the same week. It's too much. Like it's way too much. And so we have been so grateful to Raphael, who's been our retoucher through, and like he's grown with us in our career. He's a local Atlanta retoucher as well.
He's stressed out with us.
Yeah, he's not the hugest fan of us right now, and that we have a lot of things to do at the same time. Because of that, we've had to get a secondary retoucher as well. We've been working with D-Touch, who are there is a collective of people, and they're based in New York, and so those are 2 retouchers that we've had the privilege of working with.
Picture House.
Yeah, but Picture House has saved our lives on a shoot, and that they made they completely reconstructed a garment for us.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like retouching it, like if only we were comfortable enough to tell you some of our retouching stories.
But I also think like it takes also having an eye for retouching to know like what's capable and what you can do. And a lot of that, like I say, it's just, even though I keep repeating this, a lot of it just comes from studying. You watch enough YouTube videos on like the OGs, you'll pick up little things that they do.
Yeah.
And it's important. I mean, I think that's what happens with a lot of the people that we work with, in that we fight for the best image that we can. And if that means putting 5 photos together, we will do it, and we'll refine it in a way to where you'll never be able to tell. That may involve our retoucher, hating us for a few days. and that we have to composite things and stuff like that. So,
but we all gonna get that shot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's who we work with.
I don't understand photographers who do their own retouching. Like, I tried it because when I was starting out, I was still like learning and didn't have enough money to pay for a retoucher. So I was like, I can't pay for anyone. I remember I went to, I think it was Happy Finish in the UK. And they're like, yeah, we can do this for you. It's £150 an image. I was like, oh my God. I'm just trying to learn how to do this myself. And then
it's a full-time career. Right. Like, people don't realize that it's an art to it. Like, it's a lot to
it. But I feel like it's important to know how to do it yourself.
Yeah. So you can know what good retouching looks like and bad retouching looks like.
But also, you know how, like, if nobody else can do it, you know that you can do it.
And so what we find ourselves doing is to respect our retouchers' time. There's smaller things that may come in, like, oh, shift the color temperature of this, or can we just take out this little piece of hair and things like that. It's important to be able to go in and do those things. One, sometimes retouchers charge you by how many times they edit, how many passes you get. So it's important to say, well, instead of you paying another $50 to $100 to remove this hair, you might want to learn how to just do that yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, like, for us, skin is something that we try to not touch because it takes so much time. But the other stuff, we're okay about jumping in. I'm always compositing some stuff.
Yeah. I've had to swap heads from bodies before because, like, the movement is great, but the facial expression is not quite.
Very common.
And so, like, had to do it quickly just to show the client. And then I'm like to my retoucher, can you just like make this look real, because I don't think I made it look real. And skin for sure is so hard. I'm like, I even asked my retoucher, can you teach me how to do this? And she was like, yeah, sure. And after about 3 weeks, I was like, okay, we're going back to just paying you. Because
it's still, because it takes time. Like, it's one thing to know the process, but
also thing to have
rushing it. Like, you can't rush it.
Yeah. Okay, so another question is, do you prefer digital or film?
Digital.
We're all digital. Film, because of the pace and the type of work that we do, film is just going to inhibit, our workflow quite a bit. So, like, it's important that we maintain quality and maintain the workflow versus dealing with film. We respect people who shoot film and love the way that film looks, but just for our personal workflow and how we work with the clients and the talent that we work with, it's important to have that digital going.
A lot of people say don't knock it till you try it. We tried it. It sadly didn't work with us. We wanted it to so bad. We're just like, we're just gonna stay in our lane.
Yeah, I think film would be. Donté knows how to shoot in film. It's not that it's a capability thing. I think it's more so about
patience.
It's patience. It's being able to see if the image is good. Like, that's very important. Just being able to see the image, knowing what to change and things like that. I think for some of our personal work and even fine art work, when we get to that, have time for that, it'll probably be, we'll take that risk a little bit more.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm learning on film, then shooting on digital. I'm moving back to film because I feel like I can be a bit more creative with film. Like, obviously with client, like, no client wants us to shoot on film, or some do, but the pace of it obviously is what makes the shoot happen, is because you can get things done quickly. I remember assisting a photographer who shot on film, and he only had 10 minutes with the talent, and so I had to make sure all the backs were loaded up and the Polaroids were set so he could see what the image was looking at before shooting a whole roll of film. And that was exciting, just being on set, like having to change over backs and stuff. But yeah, obviously when you've got a digital tech and you can see it instantly without having to swap something over, is definitely, I mean there's two sides to it. I find there's some kind of romantic element to shooting on film and just the necessary getting the job done to digital, but everyone has their own thing.
Yeah, like digital, I think digital just works for us. I think it also, we find what's possible is a little bit, like, the gamut of what's possible is a little bit wider. So that's why we also stick with digital, because we know that shooting at with the type of files and things like that, coloring and stuff like that, which is also very important to us. All of that stuff is possible with digital.
Cool. Okay, so another question is, I feel like a lot of photographers have found themselves working on video projects recently, music videos, even directing EPs, films, or short form content. Do you have an active interest in moving into that space? And if so, what type of content are you interested in creating?
We do. I don't know when. I don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah,
It's very nerve-wracking. I feel like we just got here to this space, so it's like,
yeah, like we've directed some stuff. It's like advertising stuff though. Like it's not like a feature film or anything like that, or anything that has like a plot or storyline per se. It's more so like movement direction and, you know, making sure that we can communicate with the talent that we're used to shooting. They like conveying to them what needs to happen within the video. I think we're definitely interested in getting into video. I think because we have so many interests, it's kind of hard to say what that entry point would be. Yeah. Like we love creating. So who knows that is it gonna be a music video, TV, whatever? Like, I don't know, but we definitely want to get into video at some point.
Okay. You mentioned some fine art earlier. Are you what's the word? I drawn a blank. Are you looking at getting into the whole NFT craze that's happening right now?
We would want to. It's super lucrative. Like the NFT, like watching someone sell a color block, like literally a colored square for $500,000 is kind of insane. Like just literally seeing how these people are buying this type of stuff is kind of insane. I think what's fascinating about NFTs is, again, kind of that what's possible idea, and that, you know, you can, it's literally mixed medium. It can be a photograph, it can be a moving image, it can be a GIF, it can be anything. We haven't explored that at all because of, honestly, we haven't had time, but it does seem like it's gonna be here. I guess we have to see the longevity of it to figure out how much time we invest into it, but it seems very lucrative.
Yeah, I'm blown away at what gets sold and for how much. And I'm like, damn it.
It's kind of like how it usually is at like what's the name of that? It's in Miami. It happens every year. Art Basel. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Like it's kind of like that, but virtually. Like you'll see a banana on a wall with a tape, and that gets millions of dollars. It's like that. Like it's like what happened.
Have you been to Art Basel?
Yeah.
Okay,
it's like crazy.
I absolutely loved it. The first and only time that I've been, I was just so blown away. But then I see things on the news like a banana taped to a wall. I'm like, I didn't see that. Like I've seen so much other amazing work, like stuff that people have like dedicated time and energy to, and all they do is report a banana. I'm just like, that's not Art Basel.
It's also which side of Art Basel you go to, because there's like the kind of like downtown, like not so cool, and then like it's the Wynwood area that also has like more of the authentic art, so to speak. So it's like, you know, it depends on which one you're keeping up with. Those bigger galleries have those kind of crazy random things that people buy for millions.
I don't think I made it into the main one where all the so-called dead artists are. But like the little satellite shows, like Pulse and Complex, and that's where I found some really like mind-blowing stuff. I'm like, how did you even think of that to make that into art? And it's just like, I wish I could buy this because it's just genius.
And they tell you the price, and you're like, nope, can't afford that.
No, you're like, maybe I'll come back. Maybe I can recreate this somehow. Nope. Okay. Okay, let's see. I think that's all the questions.
It's a few in the question and answer thing that we see. We can kind of rapid fire them if we're shorter.
Sure. Do you want to go through and because I know we've answered some in our chat.
Someone's I'm not doing that one. It says, I'm trying to think of a question, but honestly, I'm thankful to hear this conversation, especially to see people who look like me. Thank you to everyone. Oh my God, thank you for that. We're so grateful and gracious to hear you say that.
Definitely.
How do you network / tips when you first started in the editorial field? I would say this happened organically.
I think it's really important to be yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like we've kind of grown past that moment of like being really like stuck up as artists and like being very pretentious. Everybody wants to feel comfortable. Everybody wants to feel like everybody has a personality on set. So it's important to, you know, have that personality, because that personality can get you a lot more places than your talent can get you.
And no matter how big the job is, you're still working with regular people. Like these are regular people with regular feelings. Even if they have an ego, that doesn't give you a permission to give like for you to have an ego.
Or even
like,
if they don't show their feelings too. It's
yeah,
like those are still there, and they may be impressed with something. They just sometimes people are just like, they're just programmed not to show you their emotions.
Yeah,
you know, but they can be completely impressed with what's going on and very happy, but they don't even going to show it. You know, so it's why it's important, like, to be yourself, no matter who's around, no matter who's looking. Just be yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that has allowed us to have a lot of repeat people that we can work with, and that like they remember how comfortable we made them on set, or you know how nice we were and how genuine we were and things like that. So it's important to keep that in mind. Just like Donté said, be yourself.
Yeah.
Do you always tether to accomplish this? We always tether.
Yes.
My first reason for tethering is that sometimes our client is not on set, so we do. Like the magazine that we're working with may not be on set, and that they want to see the images as they come in. So we are working via Zoom or anything like that, and they're looking at the images. Beyond that, we like to color, we like to select, we like to do mock-ups and things like that, and all of that is achieved.
Get as close as possible to the final image on set, so that everybody can kind of see and can trust that.
Yeah.
The next question is, what inspired the recurring use of platforms or a stage in your portrait work?
It became, well, okay, so one of our missions, or something that inspired us, is to really celebrate people, really give people of color, people that look like us, give them their roses, so to speak, and feature them in a way that felt magnificent and put them on that proverbial pedestal, so to speak. But it wasn't, we just tend to like elevation in our images.
Yeah.
It kind of becomes a vantage point that we like to have. We kind of have like this hero angle that we tend to infuse into a lot of our work. And to get that, we need to have them kind of elevated on set.
We just love it.
Yeah, we just love it. I think it became a part of the image after we did Zendaya, and then Jennifer Hudson also for Entertainment Weekly. It became like, okay, we have like, this is kind of cool. So now we challenge ourselves into how can we reinvent
like, what does that look like? Even when it comes to like the Stacey Abrams, Mary Claire, it's like that's another platform situation, but it's different, you know. A lot of times I'm always, let's do a platform. I was like, we gotta at some point.
Well, the platform costs, so sometimes the budget doesn't always allow for us to have a platform, nor the space. So we have to think about that type of stuff.
So I want to more intricate platforms in the future.
Yeah,
we're gonna play with those.
So. We have some references, but as we quickly learn, set design is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we don't always get. Who are the OGs y'all study? I really wish I could take my computer into my living room where you can see all of the many coffee table books that I have, but the list is very long. Like I don't think it's one person that we study like solely.
If we can name a good 10, it'll probably be Abaddon, Nick Knight,
Richard Abaddon, Nick Knight. Everybody that doesn't know who Abaddon is.
Okay. Abaddon, Nick Knight, Stephen Meisel, Mario Testino, Mario Sorrenti, of course, Anne Leibovitz. You have people like Gordon Park, people like Harry May Weems. You have people like Alistair McLellan. You have people like Peter Lindbergh.
David LaChapelle. So yeah, like it ranges. I think what we love to do is pull from the least expected place. It may not be a complete image. It may be a pose. It may be a lighting reference. It may be styling reference. It's so many things. Like we started pulling from paintings. We started pulling from other mediums to get inspiration. So it really depends. We try to be as kind of like inspired, so to speak, as possible.
The next question is, you guys pull a lot of inspiration from past fashion and iconic imagery, which I love. how do you pull inspiration from the past and bring it to the present while adding your own flair to it? I think it kind of feels innate to bring things to the present since we're born in the present. So it makes it a lot easier to kind of be like, okay, like obviously the fashion is going to be a lot different, you know? So then it's like, you're matching the set to like the person's skin tone. Like how does that look and all those things?
Yeah, and I think it's important for us to pay homage, but also not be duplicative. Like we want to make sure that it's like sometimes the reference is subtle, sometimes it's not in the whole image, sometimes it's like a set piece, sometimes, like I said, it's like a pose, it may be a color usage. Like the references, it depends on how you use that reference to put your own fresh spin on it. We're usually not using one reference in an image. Sometimes it's like the reference is the backdrop, but that's the only reference out of the whole shoot that we're using. Everything else is like what just happened, it happens on set. So it depends.
Our go-to lenses to shoot on is
we have 4 that we have on every order.
85
millimeter 1.2, 24 to 70, 70 to 200, and when we're feeling spicy, it's a 16 to 35. And we chose those.
I'm never feeling spicy.
Yeah, he sometimes. But we chose those because they were like the standard kind of like gamut of, you know, the focal lengths. Yeah. But I think when we have more specialized projects, we do switch that up into less like zoom lenses and more fixed focal length. Yeah. So it just depends. But those are like our go-tos when we're on location or don't know what we're gonna shoot on set at all.
Yeah. Cover all bases.
Yeah, you gotta cover it. You never know. You never know.
When getting ready for a shoot, what would you guys say are some key components to help prep for? Well, first is waking up in a happy attitude. That I feel like that helps a lot. A lot of times in the car, it's a lot of like listening to music, ideally Sierra 2005 era.
Yeah, we love my goodies and Like a Boy, all of those things.
Promise, all that stuff. I think part of it too is like we always call my parents for prayer before.
Yeah, because of Donté. He has invited me into his family, and his family's kind of adopted me, but it's a certain spiritual grounding that we've adopted, not just for a career gain or anything. It's just, it helps us be at peace spiritually and in our mood and kind of protect us before we're going into a space with different energies, new people that we're working with. So it's always important to get your mind right, get yourself right, you know, put up your shields and, you know.
Yeah, and just like always have an ear to like, even listen to what God may be saying. And because like there's sometimes like we don't know what to do. So we just have to kind of sit there and pray and see what the answer is. Especially in a very, very fast
or set. Big shoot too.
Yeah.
You might be intimidated by the shoot itself. But generally
I don't know if you guys do this, but I know that when I have a really big shoot, I'm like, right, I'm gonna get a nice early night, and I get into bed nice and early, then I'm awake the whole night. 4 hours shoot. I'm like, I'm not worried. I've done this a million times before. Why won't you go to sleep?
Yeah, that happens to us a lot when we'll be like, so you're up? Yep.
Yeah, we'll text each other like 3 a.m. like, what's up?
Yeah.
What you doing?
But we try to protect our minds first, more than anything. Generally before the shoot, before that day before, our mood boards are done. Like it's not much that we have to pull reference wise or anything. The set's already done. We know the gear's there, you know, so it's like, generally it's just that day of the morning of the shoot. We're just making sure that, you know, we're going into the shoot as calm and as positive, peaceful, at peace as we can.
Yeah. And so we also, do you do your own productions or work with producers? We work with producers. We have, I think like 3 favorite people that we love to work with.
Yeah, like it depends on which coast we're on or which city we're on. We've worked with a few producers in LA, one like Rachel Oliver, who we work with a lot of shoots with InStyle, and she's worked with us on a lot of other shoots. Our agents produced a shoot. So we have like people like Jose and Shar from our agency who help us produce the shoot. Yeah. Michelle, I'm blanking on her last name. We work with her in LA a lot. In Atlanta, we work with Sienna, who is like our go-to producer here, and then in New York, it really depends. Sometimes there's no producer or our agents step in, or it may be somebody from the client side that we work with. But producers they really save our lives. It's way too much to think about.
Without a producer, I'm not doing it. I can't. It's just, they literally are lifesavers.
Yeah.
Somebody asked, how have you managed? Wait, how much time do you have for more questions?
I'd say, I don't know, how much time do you guys want? I could talk all night, but I know a lot of people.
Let's do 10 more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go to 7:45. Let's do 7:45.
So somebody says, how have you managed to stay rooted in your faith whilst coming up? I think for us it's been important to know that these opportunities aren't just coming out of thin air, and we kind of feel like the opportunities that we've had have really been godly ordained. And so we're always very thankful, and that's what keeps us going. And so that we're not in this by ourselves either, and I think to know that, we've as AB+DM, in this industry, we've kind of been doing this for, I just came up on 9 months. So we're still under a year technically in this industry. So with that being said, it comes with a lot of, that's favor, and that's favor that not many people can get in 9 months,
or in their career.
Yeah. And it is not by just our hand, so that's one of the things that kind of help us stay rooted and grounded, and even just stay humble in what's happening. Because it's not us that are just doing this. Yeah,
it's important that, like Donté said, you have to understand that without remaining faithful, without remaining grounded in your faith, things can be taken away from you. You got to understand that once you lose that humbleness, once you lose that faith, what those consequences are, and once you forget who is or what is ordaining all of this stuff and lining things up for you, that's when you may see some different changes in how your career looks. And so it's not something that we think about. It's just who we are now. It's just how we operate. It's not something that we kind of consciously think we have to do this. It's just this is just what we do, and have adopted as our just a way of life.
Yeah. What are your top 3 dream subjects you would like to shoot?
This changes every day. It changes so often. I think I would say one person that has been on our list is Rihanna.
You do your 3.
I'm gonna speak on behalf of us. Rihanna is someone who has inspired us, and it's mostly because she is the epitome of a chameleon. We love working with people who kind of inspire us. We don't know what they're gonna come to set with, or what concept it is. But yeah, you can name your other 2.
I've been saying this for a minute now. Lupita.
Oh, Lupita Nyong'o. Yep.
We just really wanted to work with her.
So beautiful.
Another beautiful regal woman.
And then I think, who would be the last person?
I think again, those 2 are always on our list, but that third person shifts. It sometimes can it would be we saw somebody like Anya Taylor, who's been somebody who's beautiful. Even Zendaya was somebody that we wanted to work with, and all these people they feel
we still want to work with them, even though
we can shoot Zendaya every day.
Let's book.
But yeah, that's a hard question to answer, because we also research and are exposed to different people and their music. Maybe it's not just related to their look or anything like that. Sometimes their mission, sometimes their story inspires us, and we want to shoot. We've been toying with the idea of shooting old icons that are from the early 70s, 60s and 70s. How could we ever do something like that? So it depends.
How do you find assistants? How do you choose one? In the future, are you open to intentional mentorship? I think in the future we definitely are. Right now, I think probably not, because it takes a lot of time, and we want to make sure that we're doing it right, and we don't want to just give anybody mentorship. But we're always open to questions. We're always open to talking.
DM us on Instagram or Twitter. We're on there a lot. If you just have a question or anything. And then, how do we find assistance? We trust our peers. You know, we trust people who have been working before us and have been doing this for quite some time. Like I remember our first time going to LA, we messaged, we DM'd, emailed Art Shriver to just figure out if he knew any lighting assistants and things like that. So
he gave us a full list.
He gave us a full list.
Any advice, like we asked him, he like sent.
I
remember we had asked him for advice on something, and we didn't even respond. Yeah, and he just sent us a full email of everything that we needed to know. So like people like him, well, photographers like him who are just like amazing and so giving and so caring, who wants to help the younger generation. It's something that we kind of hold in our hearts, and that's something that once we get there, that's how we want to be.
Yeah. So it just depends on in terms of how we choose, and it depends on the job.
Somebody said, did you find you needed to develop a signature style for clients to take notice of you? I feel like we still haven't signaturized our style yet. I
think we have a common thread within our work, but I think as we haven't worked with all the people that we can possibly work with, or even work within all of the industries that we have worked in, we know there's still some evolution there that we are willing to take, and we know that's going to happen. I think we're known for shooting fashion a lot. We're known for shooting glamour images and things that feel glamorous and, you know, from that world, because that's just what we just so happen to have shot. But we have a lot more inspiration that differs and that segments from that for sure.
Okay, I think there's one last question on here, and it says, how important do you think it is to have a mentor or to have people supporting you in the industry? I think it's very, very important to have people supporting you in this industry. That just comes from, you know, just being yourself, being nice.
And I think it's important to understand that support doesn't have to be mentioned. Like, people will work with you and support you without you knowing it. If they choose and take a liking to you, that they don't have to tell you that they're going to support you. They don't have to tell you that they're rooting for you. So anybody can be, you know, somebody who's supporting you. Anybody can be someone who is quote unquote mentoring you. Like, for example, Art Shriver is someone who has mentored us in giving us things that we've done, like giving us information, stuff like that. But we haven't met him, you know, like we haven't sat down with him in person. You know, Colin Law, other people in this chat, like Darcy supports us, she roots for us, you know, and we, you know, have been working with her not so long. And so like these are people
questions like what it takes, and like she's put us in contact with some great people who love working with.
So it's important just to understand, because it's important to understand that you know, support comes in many various forms. It's not just people who reach out and say that they're supporting you. Sometimes people can never meet you a day in your life and still support you and be pushing opportunities your way.
And as far as like having a mentor, I don't think that it's necessarily a necessity, but it's always cool to have, you know, people that you can, you know, learn new things from. If you have questions, who have done it before and 10 times over, you know, kind of ask the questions. So that mentor can be anybody, you know, not that they have to have like that title of your mentor, but they just have, you know, what they call it, confidants. Like just people who, you know, you just go to like, hey, I have this question, I don't know how to do this.
I mean, we're lucky because we're each other's confidant. So we have a secret weapon in that we can talk to each other about we can talk to each other about the jobs we're not supposed to talk to each other about, and talk about stuff that happened on set that we can't really talk to anyone else about. So but like, create a network of peers, create a people that you feel comfortable talking to, and talking to things about. It's important to definitely have a network of things.
And asking for help as well. I literally have only just learned to ask for help in the last 6 months, and didn't know that there are so many people willing to help you. I was like, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to cause anyone too much trouble. Everyone's going through the same problems, but literally ask for help when you need it is definitely something I would add to that.
For sure. We have 2 more that came in if you want to take the last
pick 2 more questions.
Minutes. Okay, last 2. Don't add any more.
Hi, thank you for this. Do you think that being Black photographers made it harder to gain recognition and opportunities? I feel like, honestly, it's hard to answer that question, because I feel like there's some ways to where it helped a lot, and there's also some ways to where it kind of didn't?
Yeah, I think from a historical place of answering that question, the answer would be yes. I think that bias is there. I think that, marginalization is there. I think that we are entering or inside of a renaissance where your skin color is not always limiting your opportunities. But historically, yes, that has, just calling a spade, Black photographers aren't afforded the same opportunities as people who are not of the same ethnicity. I think we're super hopeful, and we're examples of that we're capable. We're examples that, you don't have to view someone that's not from a big city as less capable, less skillful, less knowledgeable. So we're hopeful that whatever bias, whatever, inequity between ethnicities or people who are differently from different communities, that equity is beginning to shift and change. And it stays like that, remains that way. Yeah. And so that would, like, to Donté's point, I think right now, because we are part of this time where more Black people are afforded opportunities right now and during this time, we have been given a lot of beautiful opportunities and amazing opportunities, but we are recognizing that it hasn't always been like that. So hopefully, what's happening now is it continues to get better and better, and even bigger jobs are, on the table for people. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite happy mistake photo experience, if you had any?
I think, do we have any?
I would say, like, a lot of the happy mistakes happen on set, and then it shifts the whole shoot. Like, we've had shoots to where we went into the shoot and thought the shoot was going to go this way and set a whole lighting setup, and then the mistake is that no one on set thought this is, or felt this is what it should look like, and so we had to shift the whole shoot. We've had mistakes happen to where like the shot that we were talking about with Zion Williamson, we just kind of ignored the weather, but it shifted the shoot in a way that it made everyone kind of like let their guard down and have fun, because they realized that, wow, this shit is not happening how it's supposed to happen.
Well, like, there may have been a shoot to where, like, a light didn't trigger.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, oh crap, that's the shot. And then we just turn out, we have to, like, go through just find out which light didn't go off. And then, like,
I'm gonna just share this shoot just so you can understand. This is the shoot that he's referencing. So the image that's on the cover image, that's lighting setup should stem from a misfire. So the lighting looks completely different.
The key went out.
The key went out. The key light, that's a frontal key light, went completely out. I noticed it. I'm Donté shooting. I noticed it, and I was like, wait, I like that. He's confused. I'm like, hold on. So I'm yelling at the assistants, go turn this light up, go turn this pack up. And we made it intentionally look like this after that happy mistake of a misfire.
And me and Z are just like,
yeah, they're like, oh, okay, looks good. Everybody's like, I don't know what's happening, but looks good. So, like, that it happened like that for a reason, for sure. But yeah, that was, like, probably a key example of,
because that's the funny part. Like, if we share your screen again, a lot of this is really this shoot in particular. The lighting setups are all the same. Like, it's the same thing, but just turning one light off, turning one light on. Maybe it's like putting a V flat back there. Maybe taking the V flat out. Maybe like just putting a V flat on the side. Maybe just turning all the fill lights off and just having like one key. So like all these kind of elements that were there to kind of create a shot worked.
Sure. All right, Nathalie, we're turning the floor over to you.
Okay, well, no, thank you. I can't believe I've been sat here for nearly 2 hours and it doesn't feel like a minute has gone by. Like, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your work, and just being like, having a lot to say about your passion, and I can definitely see that the passion is there, and you've got like so much more to look forward to, and I'm fangirling over here. I'm excited to see what you guys are doing next, because it's just, you're just steamrolling it, and it's just amazing. So thank you so much. And
no problem. Thank you for having us. We truly appreciate everyone who joined us, and even if you're watching a recast of this, just imagine you were here and listening live. But yeah, thank you so much, Nathalie. I'm excited that you chose us to be one of your first. I'm sure the rest of your conversations will be amazing.
We're so honored.
Yeah, and we hope to have more conversations like this, and maybe be back again.
Yeah, no, I'd love to have you back again for sure. But yeah, no, thank you. And thank you to, I just want to say thank you to all the board members of the APA in Los Angeles, because everyone's just so supportive and so helpful, and everyone chips in, and it's just such a lovely community, and to be part of a community is simply amazing, especially like when I moved from London to LA. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know a single soul, and so like I was like, okay, let me just join this organization. And before COVID, they would have like one-off print sales. Everyone would bring a print that they were happy to give away, and a print swap. It wasn't a sale, it was a print swap, and I got to meet some amazing people. So yeah, just thank you to everyone there, and to Patty as well, who's behind the scenes helping put this all together. So
thank you, Patty.
Well, you all have a good evening, afternoon.
Have a great one.
Hope you enjoyed this.
We'll see you on Instagram, I guess.
Yeah. See you soon.
All right, take care. Bye.